let's talk about the worst clinic experience that I have ever had. Now, just FYI, this was actually my own clinic. It was my first clinic when I opened it initially, and you'll understand as we go through why this was such a terrible experience. Now, before we do get any further into this one, please, as always, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us to reach more people and to have a greater impact. Now, thank you very much for doing that one. Let's talk about the worst client experience that I've experienced in my life. Now, when someone came into my clinic, and you're going to need some background with this one. When I started my first clinic, I had about $4,800 Australian dollars, and I didn't have much. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go and try and rent a room in a gym. I was in Adelaide at the time. So I called around everywhere, and two gyms got back to me. And I decided to go with one gym. It was a friend of mine. He's a friend now anyway. His name was Raul. Fantastic, great community gym. However, there were a few things that when we think from a client experience perspective, not so good. So let's start at the beginning. So firstly, where this building was actually set back from the road about 30 meters. And it was actually behind another building. It was on an industrial street behind another building in a CrossFit gym, which was a warehouse. Now, on either side of this, one side we had a power plant and the other side we had a scrap metal yard. And there was no real signage out the front at all. And so if you consider it like this, when someone's experience starts, when they first come to the building, or they come to the clinic, what do they see? What do they feel? How easy is it for them to understand, where should I park? Where should I walk in? The amount of people that would call me and say, "Hey, Pete, I don't know if I'm at the right place. I can't see signage. There's no lights. Did I forget to mention there was no lights down the 30-meter little alleyway thing?" And that didn't make it any easier when it was winter and the sun went down really early and we worked quite late too. So you'd have to walk down this alley. It was dark. There was a power plant scrap metal yard, painting a beautiful scenario here. And then there was a small side of mine on the front once you got down the back. But it also wasn't very obvious where to park and where was safe to park, considering the scrap metal everywhere too. So then you would come inside, and because I didn't have reception at that time, and initially I didn't have an iPad or anything there either, and there was an old couch, and there was a small sign that said, "Hey, please take a seat on the couch, and we'll be with you shortly." However, that sign would often get taken down and moved. So again, someone would get in there and think, "Well, is anyone working here today?" Terrible, right? Terrible. But this was where my business started, and it got much better than this down the line. Now, once I would come out, drop off or say goodbye to the other client, and then grab the new client to take them in, we then would have to walk through the gym itself. There's no way to get to the physio room without an actual walk through the gym. Now, if there were classes on, I mean, the music was extremely loud. There were a lot of people moving around really fast, and there was just a whole lot happening. And so we'd have to take a little detour around, and you couldn't really hear anything because of how loud it was in there. You go around, and you'd end up in this little room down the back. Now, unfortunately, when I first started, there was no air conditioning in this room. We had a small heater, but no air conditioning. We started in winter, and by the time summer came around, we had to figure out a solution for the air conditioner. And so not only was it kind of uncomfortable in there from a temperature perspective, but it also didn't smell particularly great, and it was a little bit loud as well. Now, it's not to say that I think the service was quite good, actually. The actual physiotherapy was quite good. I've got to say that, right? No, no, no. Actually, I feel very sorry for the first clients I saw the first year or two. Gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. But that experience, okay, is about as bad as you could get for a healthcare clinic, right? It's about as bad as you can get. And the reason that I'm telling you this story is because what we did when we moved into our first big, large, proper multi-D clinic was we looked at every part of this experience and said, how can we do the opposite? Okay, we did the inverted thinking. So we looked at, there were so many parts of this experience that we just weren't proud of, that we just didn't feel were really helping us to grow the client base, to make people feel really comfortable, like they're in the right place, like they were working with professionals. A lot of it just seemed very slapped together. You're working with someone who might be passionate, but they haven't really put a lot of thought into, how does this feel as the customer, as the consumer coming in? And so we flipped it, we inverted it, and we found somewhere that had fantastic parking, great access, well lit, huge signs from the roads. Okay. Really easy to get in and out of. Okay. So you could navigate that very, very well, even with how the traffic worked around that area. Really, really simple, and had great disabled parking as well. Right out the front, you could come straight in. These were all important things. And then when you walked in the front door, we went from kind of dark and nothing really quite nice to these big glass doors. You walked in, what did you smell? So we thought about what was the candles or the incense or the different smells that someone would have when they walked in. What was the sounds? How do we make it feel relaxing? How do we make it comfortable? We invested in massage chairs. We got like our first receptionist. She was a barista. And so we had beautiful herbal teas, we had barista made coffees with beans. We really went over and above with this experience. We thought of all the little things as well. So we had this nice, beautifully branded charging dock, PhysioFit charging dock, free Wi-Fi, all of those things to try and make people feel spoiled. So before they even got into that session, way before then, they're thinking, I'm in the right place. It's a very professional setup here. I'm feeling calm and relaxed, and I'm looking forward to meeting my therapist and working with my therapist. And so what I'd love you to do for your clinic is to actually consider right now, what is your experience like? What would be a terrible experience? And how could you invert that? So if that's a really, really bad experience, what's the exact opposite of that? And from the opposite, the inverted thinking, what are you not doing? What could you start doing? And how can you improve the experience for your clinic, for your clients? All right, my friends, I'd love to know in the comments below, what have you come up with and how have you implemented this in your clinic? And I'll see you in the next video.